All right, I'm very excited to have everybody here today. Today we're going to talk about off-market insiders and how you can become a member so that we can get out there and help you take advantage of investing without being tied to the stock market. My name is Scott Lundgren. I will be your presenter today. The reason that we're looking to talk to people about this subject is I'm sure a lot of you this is not your first webinar out there, as you've been out there on the internet looking, finding different ways to be able to go out there and create wealth. One thing that you've probably found is that if you follow the masses, you're going to be put into the stock market. That's where 401k and IRA programs are required to invest, where a lot of other people are putting their monies as well. But if you're on this webinar here today, I want to say congratulations to you because you're not a sheep. Okay, you're out there and you're looking for a better opportunity for yourself. And what we want to do is we want to talk to you about a coin term that we have down here, which is legal insider trading. What we mean by this is not breaking the law. In the stock market world, insider information is illegal to use. In other investments that are out there, it's encouraged to acquire as much information as you possibly can so that you're making a decision based off of knowledge and, history as opposed to, playing the casino route, which is kind of how we look at the stock market. So when you look at off-market investments, what we mean by this is we're talking about investments that aren't easily found. You can't just go out there and Google off-market investments and all of a sudden have a long list of things that you can put your money into. If you walk down to your bank and say, "Hey, I want to get a bond or a CD or some sort of a low yield or return on investment," all day long, tons of options, easy to get, anybody can do it. Stocks, very similar. Just open up an online account, start buying and selling stocks, call a stockbroker. You can do it anytime you want, but there's a lot of opportunities that are out there that we're going to help you find that are collective opportunities you can take advantage of on an individual level, or at least most people can. These are syndications and crowdfunding opportunities that are out there. We have vetted out wealth creation processes so that you don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel on the steps necessary to get out there and accomplish these goals. So we're going to help you. Our goal today is to help you become an off-market insider where we can educate you on these processes. We can provide consistent, positive return opportunities using safe and secure assets. If you do stay to the end of this webinar today, regardless of whether you become an actual insider with us or whether you just simply go through the webinar, we will provide to you our Insider's Guide to Passive Real Estate Investing. We believe that real estate is one of those vehicles that you can get into off the stock market that provides safe, secure returns. My story is going to be different than your story, but there's a lot of similarities between my situation, how I've got to where we're at here today on this webinar, and where a lot of people are that are listening to this webinar, because I was really just like you guys 10, 15 years ago. I was in a situation where, I'd gone through the traditional methods of going to school, went to high school, went to college, got married at a young age. In fact, my first marriage didn't last very long, but I got married at 18. So what had happened was, in my early 20s, I was divorced and I had, had a career path that didn't really go very far. And I was kind of hitting the reset button on my career already. And I started to just sit down and think really long and hard about the fact that I had been following, just like a lot of people in the country, and I'd say 90 to 95% of people in our country, I'd been following what I've been taught my whole life. Sit down, plug away, go to school, work hard, and you'll be fine. And I started to realize that I don't know if that's the case anymore. And the more research I did, the more investigating I did into what actually creates wealth in today's society, I realized that it wasn't the same as what I was taught in school. And so academia doesn't teach you to become wealthy. They teach you to be a worker bee, right? And so all these books that I started reading, I read every entrepreneurial book you could think of under the sun. And one of them that I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. Most of you have probably read it. It talks a lot about mindset. And that's really what changed my whole outlook on everything. Once I realized that my attitude determined my altitude, that, what I created, it became a reality just by mental mindset and positivity. It changed everything in my life, and it drove me towards finding an entrepreneurial opportunity. And I got into the educational space. I got into educating entrepreneurs, worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of people over the years. And one thing I realized is that success is predicated upon correct principles and strategies. And when you know them and you apply them effectively, you can create success just like anybody else that's come before you. I want you to really let that sink in for a moment. What that is saying is, if you knew what the individual that you're jealous of when it comes to finances or wealth, if you knew everything that that person knows, if you had all their knowledge, and more importantly, you're willing to apply it, meaning take action, and not just kind of sort of take action, not maybe take action, but take massive action today. Okay, that's what it takes to create success. It's not enough to know what it takes. You have to act on it. Okay? And this statement here is something that sticks with me, and I mention it probably almost on a daily basis to anybody that's willing to listen, because it's important you understand the only thing you're missing is a guideline, a step-by-step guide. Once you have that and you apply it, you're going to create success just like anybody else. And the problem is 76% of Americans admit that money is the most significant stress in their lives. In fact, take that one step further. At 65, you can see the numbers here. Only the last two columns, so we're talking a 5% slice of our country can retire comfortably at 65. Okay, everybody else either dead, dependent, or working. Think about that. 95% of our country can't retire when they want to. We live in a time that has more opportunity than probably has ever been known in history. You go back 100, 500, 1,000 years, you go back and, we have luxuries and opportunities today that are more abundant than our ancestors could ever have imagined. And 95% of us are failing. Think about that. Right? So what is wrong? What is the masses doing that's wrong? Social Security, I read the other day, is going to be out of money by 2035. So what's happening is people are buying into myths. And they're buying into myths specifically about finances or money. And so I want to cover some of the myths that we're going to go through here today. And one of the myths is that money is scarce, that money doesn't solve problems, or that we'll be taking money from others if we're earning it, or money doesn't make you a better version of yourself. These are all myths when it comes to money, and when we buy into them, they keep us in financial servitude. Let's talk about the first one, for example, that money is scarce. How many times have you heard the phrase, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Whoever told you that had never created wealth in their life, okay? I'm not saying that money actually does grow on trees. I'm saying money is out there, okay? It's not about a constant fear. We lived in a constant fear that money is going to run out, that it could vanish. But we know the truth is it doesn't vanish. There is simply the same amount of money that there always has been. But what happens is money is transferred from one group of people to another. So instead of worrying about how to protect ourselves from losing all the money, the question should be, how do I become part of the group of people that money is being transferred to? And the example that I'm going to use here today are two of the wealthiest families that we've ever known in history. Okay? And I'm not just talking about when they died being the wealthiest family in that particular time frame. These are two families that have literally created more wealth than almost any other family in history. But there's a big divide between when they created the wealth and where they're at today. And let's talk about this. The Vanderbilt family built its fortune via railroads, right? So when Cornelius Vanderbilt dies, I think that's his name. Yeah, Cornelius Vanderbilt. When he dies, he has $215 billion in today's money. Okay, over $100 million when he died. Now, he left a little bit to a university. They took on his name. We know it now as Vanderbilt. But the vast majority of his wealth he left to his heirs. And he did it without any real restrictions, rules, or guidelines. He just simply, transferred his money to his heirs. And over a 3 generation time frame, because his heirs didn't really have the same grasp of business and finances money that Cornelius did, none of them were millionaires 92 years later. 92 years, 3 generations gone. Every bit of that wealth is now dispersed. But the opposite side is the Rothschilds family. When they built their fortune, they built it via banking. He had, similar amount of wealth when he passed away. But what he did is he set up some very specific guidelines to the capital that he had raised for future heirs, for future generations. And they were really simple rules. Number one, you couldn't take any money out of the bank. They created a family bank. They stuck the money in there, and they said, all right, this money's going to grow over time. The principal will never be taken out. But what will happen is you'll have access to borrowing against it. You can go borrow against this anytime you want, borrow whatever amount you need for your particular investment that you're going to get into, but you have to pay it back like a loan, right? So his heirs had the mentality that anytime they gained access to money, they wanted to create an ROI or an investment. They wanted to get a return instead of just buy something. Okay, the Vanderbilts went and bought like crazy. In fact, I'd say there are 2 or 3 generations that they squandered that money. They probably lived it up, guys. I mean, let's think about it. That's a lot of money in 2 or 3 generations to blow. So they probably had mansions and cars and vacations and lifestyles that we could only dream about. But their lifestyle ended in 2 or 3 generations because they chose to take that wealth and make it go away. While the Rothschilds grew to over, I don't know, 50, 100 trillion. I mean, there's a lot of different numbers out there on what they're actually worth. The point being, they grew while the other family did not. And all it had to do was a mentality. That was it. That was the only real difference. It's not like, the Rothschild heirs were, all of a sudden just much smarter than everybody else, because they weren't. They just had some guidelines that they had to follow. And it kind of created a banker or investor mentality in these individuals as opposed to a spending mentality. Okay, so where do you want to be? Do you want to put yourself in a position where wealth is transferred to you or transferred away from you? The second myth is that we somehow believe that money doesn't solve problems. Think about problems that you have in your life. Okay, things that you feel like are holding you back from creating the lifestyle that you want. And the lifestyle can be anything. It can be financial, spiritual, physical, losing weight. I mean, there could be a lot of different things in your life that somehow, money can help you solve. And the truth is, and Dan Sullivan is a great mentor. And in fact, you can go join his mastermind if you went out there right now today and, looked out on the internet, you'd find him and you could join his mastermind program. I think it costs $25,000 or $50,000 a year. I don't remember the exact number, but the point being, it's worth every penny. Okay, excellent individual, trains, at a high level. But one thing that he had said, and this again is another statement that has really stuck with me, is that if you have a problem that you can write a check to and the problem goes away, then you really don't have that problem. Okay, think about problems that you might have in your life, and then next to it, maybe make a list, right? Write down 10 or 15 problems or however many problems you feel like you have today. And then next to it, identify what a checkmate could go away. And I'd venture to tell you that most of those problems will disappear. Okay, look at my situation. I have 2 kids. So college funds would be a problem, or something that I would constantly think about. Am I saving enough? Do I have the right kind of investment vehicle? Yada, yada. Well, if I could sit down today, if I had enough money, and I could just write a check to pay for their tuitions so I knew it was taken care of, would it be a problem anymore? Well, no, it would go away, so I can cross that one off, right? Retirement, same thing. I write a check, I'm retired, right? I could go through the list of most of the things that I have in my life, and the truth is money really would solve them, right? So if that's a myth, if there's a myth saying, money just, money doesn't solve any problem, well, yes, it does. Right? If you have enough wealth, it solves most of the problems that you might have. It's not going to solve everything, but it's going to put you in a better position. Right? So there's another myth out there that the only way to get ahead is to work harder and harder and harder, or get paid more for the time that you put in. So I hear a lot of people saying, well, if I was highly skilled, like a surgeon or a rocket scientist, and I could demand a high amount of per hour pay, I can get ahead. Well, yeah, that's true while you're working, but what about when you're not, right? Or if you're never able to create that kind of a high skilled income, what do you do to get ahead? And the answer is you need to learn how to leverage yourself. Okay? You need to learn how to leverage a lot of things in your life, money and knowledge. And what we're talking about here is leveraging time. Passive income. And we're going to talk a lot about today how to create more and more passive income, because we truly believe down here at Off Market Insiders that passive income is one of the key elements to creating financial security. Okay, look at this chart. I'm a very visual person, so when I see a chart, it helps me understand the point that's trying to be made. And the point I want everybody on this webinar to listen to is, I don't care who you are, and I don't care how hard you work. If you're making money only through active income, you are severely limiting yourself. Okay, look at a 40-hour work week. You're getting paid a fourth of the time. 25% of the week you're getting paid. Even if you're a workaholic and you say, Scott, I work 60 hours a week, or even you could put 80 hours a week if you want in here. You can get paid half the week, right? So what do you do in the other half of the week? Well, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're spending time with family and church, and things that are actually really important to you, right? You usually work to create enough money to do what's important, right? It's pretty rare that work and what's important are equal, right? We might as well call a spade a spade. We all do what we need to do to get by so that we can have the lifestyle that we truly enjoy. So what we need to do is we need to help everybody create more passive income. And if you're listening here today, I hope that you've already figured it out. Okay, but just to take that one step further, I want to kind of explain, active income. Active income is where you actually put time in. Wages, tips, salaries, commissions. And there's a lot of people who think, well, I own a business, so I have a residual. Well, it depends on the kind of business, right? Because if you have to actually put time in, material, you have to be participating in the business, if you will, for it to continue to create the income. It's an active income. Real estate can be both active or passive. In the real estate world, if you're out there flipping properties, hiring contractors, working on them, selling, that's active income. That's because you're actively putting time in. If you're wholesaling, you're out there, you're putting offers in, you're tying up deals. This is the active side of real estate. The passive side is where money is working for you. Just like when you look at the Rothschilds family, okay, they had that mentality of letting their money work for them. This could be interest earnings, royalties, portfolio returns, and in the real estate world, we're talking about passive income properties or turnkey rentals. Not just rentals, but turnkey rental properties. Now, Scott, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, Scott, I got this. I'm a believer. I'm sold. I know I want to make more money, but I'm here on this webinar today because I want to know how I can get more of it. And that's what we want to do here today, is we want to expose you to what we believe down here at Off Market Insiders to be the best ways to create wealth in these changing times. But there's a reason I'm talking about some of these other things, these principles first, because if you don't buy into the principles, nothing else that we do for you is going to matter. Okay, so let's look at that mentality. I mentioned earlier, you can either be a spender mentality or you can have the investor mentality, right? And I'm gonna really drive this point home, because if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, if you don't buy into it, it's going to be very hard for you to create wealth in our system. Let's look at buying a car. I have a slide here which illustrates if you're going to buy 3 cars. This is a $30,000 vehicle. You buy it same basic value 3 different times throughout your life. And I think most people have had multiple car loans that are listening to this. So this is something we can all wrap our heads around. If you just go out there and say, I just want to buy my car now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to save any money. I just want to go get it. You go down, you get a loan, right? So in this scenario, you got an 8% loan, and over 3 cars, what would happen is you'd pay $30,000 3 times, or $90,000. You'd also pay interest over those 3 loans, which totals about $20,000. So you'd be paying $110,000 for these 3 vehicles over a 24-year time frame. But what I want you to understand is at the end of that time frame, when you pay off that 3rd loan, if you just go out there like the vast majority, I'd say 70, 80, 90% of people in our country right now, you're going to have nothing left at the end. You're going to have an old car. That's it. You have no wealth that you've created. The saver's going to come to me and say, Scott, I'm so disciplined. I saved my 30 grand before I bought my car instead. Well, yeah, congratulations. Over the 3 cars, you saved 20 grand, but you still have no wealth. At the end of that time frame, you've created no wealth. If we can help you create an investor mindset, okay, just like the Rothschilds of the world, we're going to show you how you can invest your 30 grand first. Okay, don't go buy the car first, invest it first. And we have an investment vehicle that will allow you to invest into it, and literally month 2, you can turn around and take a loan and go get your car. So you don't have to wait a long period of time. You just got to make one little subtle change and get your investment vehicle in place first. And then the whole time you're buying your car, you're paying it back, but you're paying interest back to yourself. So it's a little better than paying the bank, right? And more importantly, your investment grows the whole time as if you never touched it. So you're kind of double dipping on your money here. And so what'll happen is over that course of 3 different loans, or 24, 25 years, your investment's going to grow and grow and grow while you're buying your vehicles. After you pay off the last vehicle, you've still spent the same $120,000 that, or $110,000 that the investor or the spender, put into it, but you're going to have an investment that has over $250,000 left. In the numbers that we ran, you actually had $270,000 or more. So this is a massive difference. Imagine yourself 25 years from today having an extra $250,000 or not, just because you took one simple step. One. That's it. I'm not talking about changing your lifestyle, changing your day-to-day habits, changing your work scenario or your personal life. Just take one step. One simple step where you create this, and you get this investment vehicle going for you before you purchase your vehicles. $250,000 difference. Okay. Do you purchase your vehicles this way already? If not, you need to become an off-market insider so we can show you how. Okay. If this one strategy can make more than $250,000 difference to your overall net worth, and you don't have to change anything again about your day-to-day, you just simply make this one subtle change, ask yourself, do you think this stops with vehicles? Or do you think maybe you could take the same investment strategy and apply it to everything? Homes, vehicles, vacations. If you own a business, your business assets that come in and out, your expenditures that happen on literally a monthly basis for almost every business out there. College funds like we talked about earlier, and I could go on and on and on. If you learn how to funnel it through an investment like the Rothschilds before you go do what you need to do with your money, you will have massive changes in your wealth. Not kind of sort of a little bit more or a slight percentage difference. Over the course of a generation or 20 or 30 year time frame, you'll have a massive, for most people, millions of dollars difference to your net worth. Okay. So what does it take? How do we get you, access to an investment vehicle like that? Well, first of all, you got to join our program. You got to become an off-market insider. And the first thing that we're going to provide, and I talked about this earlier, whether you join or you don't join, is we're going to provide our guide to passive real estate investing. And you can see, it's a 26-page, document or book, and it's great. If you read through this step by step, lines everything out, it just makes it very simple for you to understand what it takes to create passive income. Okay, one of the things that they're going to talk about is turnkey real estate. Turnkey real estate is not a rental property. Okay, there is a difference, and the difference is time. A rental property is a cash flowing asset that you put a lot of time into. You find them. Actually, let's back up. You got to find, where do you want to buy? Can you even buy in your market? Let me give you an example here of why I say in your market. I had a gentleman who called me up who said, Scott, I want to buy some turnkey properties, but I cannot invest in my market, in my local market where I live. I said, all right, well, I'll buy. Let me listen. Let me hear what you have to say. And he said, well, I live in San Francisco. My medium home price where I live is a $1.2 to $1.5 million. I thought, okay, well, that's definitely steep for one home, no doubt about it. In the Midwest, where we encourage you to invest into turnkey real estate, our median home price is about 1/10, about 120 to about 150,000. So I can literally get about 10 homes in my market that I'm going to suggest you invest into versus your market. Okay, we're already talking about a big difference in number of homes, but the reality is, and we all know this, it comes down to the raw numbers, right? Could I still make as enough money with that one home as the 10? Well, sure, if it rents out for enough, right? So I do the numbers, I do the math. I could probably get $10,000, $12,000 worth of income, gross income off of the rental properties in the Midwest. So I turn around, I say, okay, Mr. Investor in the San Francisco market, what can you rent it out for? What's the actual ROI? He said I can rent it for about $3,600 a month, not 10 or 12,000 like we can get in the Midwest for that same amount of money, but 3,600, right? So if you're going to be investing into real estate on your own actively, you're going to have to understand what are the good markets, where are they at in the country, how do I find a good property management team or rehab crew or tenant, or I could go through all the listing, but to do that on your own, you're investing a ton of time and a ton of energy, and so that's active income. That's a rental property. A turnkey property is where you simply call a company up like ours. You say, here's my capital, here's my finances, here's my situation, I want to invest, what can I do? And we break it down. We do it for you. We help you understand how many properties you can buy, how the portfolio would work. We go find the properties, we get them rehabbed, we get them leased up, we do all the heavy lifting for you. And an example would be losing weight. Okay? Imagine if you go out there and you just say, I've got enough money here, I'm a wealthy guy, I'm gonna pay you, you're gonna eat perfectly, and then I'm gonna go eat what I want, I'm gonna still lose weight. Right? Or I'm gonna pay you to exercise, and then I'm gonna get the benefit from it. Imagine if you could do that. Imagine if you could just write a check, and just say, all right, you eat for me, you exercise for me, but I get the benefit. Well, that's what a turnkey property is, right? You invest, we do everything else. We do all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to worry about any of the day-to-day. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They say, Scott, I don't have any experience in real estate, or I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. That's okay, right? You don't need that. You need a burning desire. This is what you have to have. You have to have a burning desire to get yourself in control of your finances. Think about how much of a lack control you have in the stock market. If you're heavily invested into a 401k or IRA right now, or you have other investments that are, stock market, based or tied to the market, what's going to happen on the next crash or pullback? I'm sure you guys have seen throughout the last 100 years or so, we've had a ton of crashes, right? Market goes up and then it crashes for 10 to 30 years. And then it goes up and it crashes for 10 to 30 years. And I think the last one was only 15 years. Well, come on. Do we really want to wait 10, 20, 30 years to recover our money if there's another crash? We've been on an amazing bull run lately, right? The last thing I read is it's the longest bull run in the last 100 years, right? So we're on a phenomenal run in the market. That's great. Average is about 7% return over that time frame, which isn't really that good. But hey, it's a good return for the previous 10 years, right? So, but what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Is that bull run going to last forever? Or do you think we're due for a market pullback, a market correction? Okay. So why turnkey? Well, you can get an immediate ROI of 8 to 10% out of the gates. Okay, you have little or no time involved. You don't have to fix or repair. We talked about this. You can invest anywhere. You don't have to screen tenants. You also get some additional tax breaks and benefits on being able to lower your net effective tax rate as well with real estate that you don't get with every investment vehicle that you have. So I want to give a very, very specific example here. This is somebody who calls me up and says, Scott, I got $100,000. I'm willing to leverage my money. What can I do? Help me out. What can you do in the turnkey world? What kind of returns can I expect? The first thing we're going to do is take the $100,000, go out there and leverage it against a 80-20 type of loan, which is very common for investors. And in that scenario, that means you're going to get about $500,000 of real estate for your $100,000 down payment. Okay. Well, the first thing we're going to look at is equity increase. Obviously, every year there's going to be some sort of equity increase. There has been in real estate other than 1 or 2 years for the last 100. Okay, so almost every year you're going to get 2 to 4 to 6 or 8% equity growth, just depending on the year. In some of our markets that we are going to suggest you invest into, we're seeing 6 to 8% returns on equity over the last little bit. But we're going to use 4 for today. So if I have a 4% annual equity growth, remember that's on the whole amount. We leveraged our money, so we're now growing off of $500,000. 4% equals $20,000 increase in value after year one. Now, we've already doubled the market returns with that, just that alone. If we do nothing else, if we don't rent the properties, we don't use them as tax write-offs, I mean, simply just board them up and forget about them, right? But as we know, we're not going to board them up and forget about them. Okay, we're going to go out there and rent them. So now we have equity growth of $20,000 annually. We're going to have $12,000 of cash flow in this scenario. Now, that's net cash flow. That's not gross, right? That's cash flow that you'll see out of these properties. You have tax breaks, interest write-off, depreciation. You start running all these numbers, and you start to realize, oh wow, I have an amazing ROI potential, right? Now, even if you can't write off the tax breaks, even if you can't rent the properties, you still have more investment ROI than you do in the market. As you add these other things in, I'm assuming most people here are paying taxes, right? So could you use an extra interest and depreciation write-off? I think most people could. Do you have expenses that you're not able to write off today with a W-2 wage or, typical normal tax filing that most people have? Well, yeah, you could. I know a lot of people don't really understand all that, but it's not necessary you understand the whole thing. What you need to understand is if you're paying too much in tax today, okay, if you're paying that 30-35% tax bracket, which a lot of people are, these types of investments can help you lower your net effective tax rate. It's important to understand that. So we're going to give you access to our preferred partners as one of the benefits of becoming an off-market insider. We have a lot of different partners that we've created throughout the years. We've been doing this for 20, 30 years, so we have a lot of great relationships that we've created over that time. We've already talked about investment models, turnkey properties, commercial properties we haven't really touched on very much, but we do get into syndications and crowdfunding that can allow you to get into commercial real estate with a nominal, investment amount. Not everybody has $1 million to $10 million to throw at an investment opportunity, right? So when we get a bunch of people that have 10,000 or 50,000 to be able to put in, you collectively together are able to take advantage of some amazing opportunities that you could probably never do on your own. Syndications, asset protection is very important, estate planning, all these things are areas of your investment world that you're going to need. And rather than having to go out there and figure them all out on your own, you can have us line it out for you, give you the roadmap. Remember, success is not mystical. It's not magical. It's just predicated upon correct principles and strategies. If we can provide them to you, avoid you having to go out there and figure all that out on your own, we can give you a very distinct roadmap to creating your financial success where you don't have to guess. You don't have to hope the market continues to do well. You can sit down and have the knowledge that you've invested safely and securely, and you're in asset-based investments that will give you consistent returns. Tax savings is important. Lowering your net effective tax rate is, another cost, if you will, to investors that needs to be addressed. I've heard many times throughout the years that taxes are the largest expense to any small business, and investing is really like a small business, right? So if we're getting ROIs and we're getting, cash flow, and then we got to turn around and hand 20 or 30% of that right back to the government immediately, that makes it a lot harder to get ahead, right? So we need to learn how to lower that net effective tax rate. We have some amazing partners that for years and years have worked with investors and real estate, entrepreneurs alike, and they're very, very good at helping you accomplish that goal. Same thing comes to as you create wealth, you need to protect it, right? So whether we're talking about a full-fledged estate plan with trusts and entities, or we're just talking about simply just getting you an LLC, which everybody needs, right? Everybody that goes out there and starts investing needs at least a minimum of one entity to help them take advantage of some of the protections and tax breaks that are out there. Okay, we have partnerships with law firms that are top notch in the country at doing this, and not just setting up a standard business entity, but including the right elements of what it takes. Let me give you an example with an LLC. If I go online to my state, and I live in Missouri, if I just hop onto my Missouri State Treasurer's office and do a little research, I can create an LLC just by simply typing in some information into their website and paying a fee. May only cost me 50 or 100 bucks or whatever the fee is, right? So I have an LLC at that point, right? Well, you do. You have a registered entity with the state, but it does very little or nothing for you unless you add more to it. Okay, you need articles of incorporation. A lot of investments and steps that you're going to take throughout the course of you being a business owner or being an investor is going to require you to have articles of incorporation. If you didn't get them, you're going to have to pay an attorney to go create them for you. Same thing with an operating agreement for your business. There's a lot of reasons why you need these documents as you continue to grow. If you have LLCs that do not include these documents, you don't have a full-fledged LLC. You have kind of a stripped-down version. All right, so we want to get everybody that joins Off-Market Insiders a full-fledged LLC. So as part of the membership benefit, when you guys join, you come aboard, we work with you on all these other investment opportunities, is we're going to also have our attorney set up a full-fledged LLC for you. So you have a monthly investment opportunity we're going to highlight. We're going to have a monthly Insiders newsletter where we talk about investment options that are out there, articles, tips, and research ability. The toolkit, which I mentioned earlier, is getting your LLC set up. And then our initial consultation, which is really the biggest value of everything that we have here today for you. And what that initial consultation is a one-time upfront initial consultation to lay out everything. Okay? Just sit down and talk to you about where you're at, where are your finances, what are your goals, what are you trying to accomplish, how can Off-Market Insiders help you reach these goals quicker, faster, and easier. Okay? Once we've gone through that initial consultation, we've created a roadmap. Okay, and you are, a customer of ours, and you continue to work with us for years and years to come. We'll revisit it. We'll revisit it many, many times over throughout the years as life changes, as you get married or have kids or grandkids or life-changing events. So there's all sorts of things that end up happening throughout your life. Inheritances can happen. When any of these life event type of things happen, we can sit down and we can have that consultation again. We can pivot, we can readjust, reevaluate, create a new plan, and if we have to do that year by year with you, we will. Okay, that's an ongoing benefit to becoming an off-market insider. The value of everything that we just talked about here today is roughly about $10,000. As you guys know, we're not charging full value when we bring somebody aboard. We want to give you some value in what you're investing into. So if you enroll now today, we're going to drop the investment to $19.95. That investment is going to include everything that we talked about here today. It's going to get your LLC set up for you. Okay, so you're going to have a foundation for your business or your investing, and it's going to be a full-fledged, attorney-created LLC. The only thing you'll have to do is just pay your state filing fee on top of that, because everybody's in a different state. Fees are different. Could incorporate that into the baseline cost. Other than that, everything is set up and done for you. The initial consultation, the newsletters, the opportunities on a monthly basis. And again, these opportunities are going to range from crowdfunding, syndications, storage unit, apartment complexes, all the way down to single-family homes or $5,000, $10,000 type of investment opportunities you can do on an individual level. We're going to have all sorts of different investments that are going to come through that you're going to be able to see, hear, understand, and then decide, is this an investment that I want to take advantage of or become a part of? As you can continue to build and grow with us, these opportunities are just going to get larger and larger. So this annual membership that you're paying is a drop in the bucket. You guys, it is an absolute drop in the bucket to the value that you're going to receive. Just one investment alone. If you just made one simple investment with us, like I mentioned earlier, buying your vehicles in a different way, this investment could help make hundreds of thousands of dollars difference to you over the next 20 to 30 years. Millions of dollars to you if you apply that to other areas of your life besides just buying a car. We would love to have you as part of the team. We're looking to do that initial consultation with everybody within the first week of them enrolling into the program. So if you do enroll, all you do is you simply go to below the video that you're watching right now. There's a button that says Become an Off-Market Insider. Very simple. Okay, click on that button, enroll, and I look forward to talking with you here in the next week so that we can go through that initial consultation, build a plan, and help you get to where you want to be quicker, faster, and easier.